Hello again. Unfortunately, our PowerPoint presentation got cut, but here's the other half. To go back, when we're analyzing a document that we're designing, we have to think about the audience first, the information that we're trying to convey, whether or not visuals will help you convey it better than text alone, and whether you could use visuals of people, humor, sex appeal, would they be appropriate, what colors are best for the project, what shapes would suit the project, and where you want the reader's eye to focus, knowing that it will start with the areas of highest contrast and move from there. Let's look at an example of a document that is not very successful. Take a look at this document and think about where the high contrast levels are and where your eye might start. If you look carefully, you'll see that the high concentration of pink on the right-hand side with prices is very difficult to read in terms of what's under those prices because the fonts all over the page are totally different. That's where your eye will start. Our eye tends to move from top to bottom, left to right, when we read. So our natural tendency is to start there. If you start somebody on the right-hand side of the page, their eye sort of falls off the edge of the page and then keeps moving down. The next strongest color is the GCS down at the bottom, the bright red there. But the rest of the page is up above it. So in order for us to see the rest of the page, we have to move our eye all the way back up to try and understand what it says. And here again, we have the problem with significant use of font that is concerning. It appears that the flyer is trying to say pack the pool, but it does not look like that is what it says. In fact, it looks like it is saying something much less appealing. It does have the date in an easy to read way, but it's not clear what it's for. The water park information is not very clear, and the whole thing is just very garish and hard to read. It looks as if it's been posted with push pins on a wall, and if you're trying to walk by, something that's bright will certainly catch your attention, and using blue for something that has a water park seems like it might make some sense. But other than that, this is kind of an atrocious design, and if we think about organization, color, shape, contrast, and so forth, we can see why this is not effective. In the next 3 slides, you're going to see the homepage of several different websites. I want you to think about, as we go through, which one has the best design and layout, which has the worst. And then think about it in terms entirely of the principles we've learned. See if you can articulate in your own mind what makes one page work better than the others, always starting from who's the audience, what are the goals of the text and the images, do the images help tell the story better than the text would by itself. This is probably a familiar company for you, and you can see that in the background we have some greens, we've talked about browns, we've talked about other contrast colors. So take this one in, we'll look at the others, and then we'll come back. This is a website that used to be used for weather surface, obviously. And you can take a look at the colors here. If you need to pause it at any time, the controls are at the bottom of your screen. And here's our next site. This is for the American Pregnancy Association, and you can see how the page is organized. Okay, so let's think about it. Which of these designs seemed most effective, and what about them was working? Let's go back to the beginning and look at the Starbucks page. So if we look at this, we have to think first, where's our eye going to start? We tend to start upper left and move left to right and down the page, but they've put a high contrast area with the orange cup on the green because, as you know, those are beginning to be contrast colors. Orange, red, and blue are the strongest contrast colors in the color wheel because they're opposite each other, but the green is also a bluish kind of blue-greens are all on one side and the oranges are on another. So we'll look at that. It's not a super high contrast, but that's where the eye will start. And it also has that crisscross on the top of the foam of whatever the coffee contains. So that's where we're going to start. Now, if you look at it, that leads us into the taller cup and the cupcake to the left. And there's a pattern to the green part on the left that is textured. When you use something with texture, it looks a lot more sophisticated than when you use just a straight blank color. And then there's this sort of leaf pattern that curls up, hits the logo, and takes the eye over and back down to the words hot or iced caramel macchiato, which is where they want your eye to end up. So you start with that orange cup, you move to the left, following that pattern up, and then back to the text where they want you to finish. That's the last spot they want you to see on the page. There's obviously links and other things, top and the bottom, but they've separated those off visually with boxes that are small, and the text is smaller, so it's not going to be obtrusive and it's not going to interrupt the flow of the page. This is a fairly effective design overall. Starbucks knows what they're doing when it comes to design. Let's look at the next page for contrast. Presumably you looked at this and you understood that there were many things wrong. For one thing, again, the primary colors of the page are blues, and it's all in stark blue. There's no texture to it at all. It's just straight stark blue. And then, so the highest contrast are going to be where there's the red orange at the top, which is actually an advertisement for a different product. It's for Monster Resume Search. And then there's another thing that's got some oranges things, and it's over on the left-hand column. And it's sort of like a photo of something, but it doesn't have anything to do with the current weather. And then the other pieces of red is another advertisement on the bottom right-hand side about meeting locals, which I think is some kind of dating hookup service. So your eye is going almost everywhere but to the information that you'd probably be looking for. And even if you kind of manage to zone out all that stuff that's floating around the edges and just focus on your own weather, even the way it is presented, the 5-day forecast is actually only a 3-day forecast, but just looking at that, the text is different sizes. There's lots of bold. There are, tons of text everywhere. The images are so small you can't really see them. Obviously, it says click the radar to enlarge, but it would make more sense to either just use a larger radar page, put that at the top so that you could start with that and then scroll down, whatever. But as you can see, this, somebody didn't give very much thought to this, and the advertisers gave lots of thought to it. They thought, okay, the page is all blue. People are going to notice our advertisements because our colors are orange. So the advertisers were smart. The page designers were not. Let's keep going. Getting back to the American Pregnancy Association, this is a good time to think about audience. The audience for a pregnancy site, there's really two audiences. One are people who really want to be pregnant and have been trying to get pregnant, and then the other is people who would really rather they weren't pregnant. So when you have two audiences who are probably in totally different mind spaces, it's going to be hard to meet both of their needs at the same time. Now, some of the information they'd both want might be the same. Early pregnancy symptoms, which you can see in this box here of the 4 rectangular boxes. It's the upper right-hand corner. Then pregnancy week by week, what to expect, a calendar for ovulation, and then where's the weight going to go. In 3 of these pictures, we've got women. Now, one of them looks like she's really excited. One of them's measuring her belly, and one of them looks like possibly she's not thrilled. Also, if you look at the very top in this sort of olive green, you see the eyes of somebody looking out. This is going to attract our attention because human eyes and human faces are, valuable to us visually. But it's not so big and so colorful and bright that it's taking away from the center of the page. The eyes of that person at the top, they look like they could mean either thing, like thrilled or not so thrilled. So they're doing a decent job of trying to balance out the differences in their audience. The contrast areas are obviously the oranges and teals that are in these the boxes at their headings, and they draw our attention to those headings. And that way we see the parts of the page that they want us to look at first. Again, on the right-hand side and at the top, we've got other links, but they're cordoned off. They're sectioned off in the same way that they were sectioned off on the Starbucks page. So overall, I don't know if we would call this exactly as effective as the Starbucks ad, but it's pretty good. It's a home site that gives you the information you're looking for. It's not hard to find it. The contrasts are not super, super bright. They're all sort of within the same range, but there is some variation so that it's not bland. So now you've learned the basic principles of design and you're ready to get started on your own. So you reach out to your teammates, establish communication because that's going to be crucial. Delegate tasks, and I've posted information online about the best ways that you can go about doing the design, even if you're not really familiar with design software. You don't actually have to be. And there's information in your course packet about how to work remotely with a team so that is not going to be too daunting for you, because that's going to be a crucial part of how that this is successful, and it's a crucial part of getting along in the workplace these days. Okay, that's it. Good luck.